Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another Sarfvival live stream where Sarfnic will actually try to get production, or progress done, specifically. Sarfnic will try. So welcome back. It is Sarfnic here. So, I'm going to try to finish up that story. I remember about 3 weeks ago, to this exact day actually, but it might review it as the next day because we crossed over into midnight, but I was telling the story of summer 2022, and then I got interrupted by Star and Warcries, and we decided to play MCC Island. And I was like, I'll finish it in 3 weeks. And it's 3 weeks. Now, I'm going to go out for dinner in about a couple hours. Or no, an hour, sorry. Hour 10, but I probably need more time. So I'm going to try to speed through this story as much as possible. It's taking really long, because well, it's a long story, you know. Summer. Sometimes you got a lot to say. And finish it while playing Minecraft. And I promise I won't switch to MCC halfway through. Didn't the last one. Look, my friends want to play MCC Island with me, and I was like, yeah, I'm down. So yeah, it's gonna be a little depressing talking about this. Oh, no, by the way, here's something even more depressing added to it. I was just watching the stream. I might even continue if he's still alive after this. Of this guy who I found back in like June, who like did this like Super Mario Galaxy stream series, and I was on one of his streams, and I subbed to him, and I saw his like. It was right before Technoblade died, and I saw his Technoblade video, and I was like, oh. And now I found him again. I'm like, oh my god. It was back in June? Like, that was a long time ago, honestly. A lot of fun stuff hadn't happened back then. I felt like it was July, at least, but looking at the thing, it says it was June, so. Yeah. I'm a nostalgist, so. Yeah, reminiscent person, whatever. Let's go mining, anyways. So. Yep, these mines where I tell stories and mine walls. Let's continue our, I don't know exactly where I left off, and I could just check, but I'll just start out from some point in week 2, so. Yeah, if you haven't seen the first stream, check it out. I even have, like, chapters or timestamps labeled, so you can, like, make sure you don't go to the MCC Island part where I don't talk about anything related to this story, so. Yep, so June 2022 was such a fun month. Honestly, overall, it was better than July. In my opinion. Yeah, overall definitely was better in July. And I was working my summer job. I actually went back there today to the place. It was depressing a little bit, but it was also a little uplifting. Like, yeah, maybe I'll work here again next year. And these adventures will continue. But it was mostly depressing, to be honest. But, anyways. It was sad seeing, like, how used to the place I was. I'm like, oh my god. Like, it feels like I barely even left this place because I've worked there for, like, so long. For like over the summer, so yeah, returning there didn't feel like it was like this unfamiliar place. It felt familiar. But anyways, let me continue. Fucking cobblestone, by the way, just so you guys know. Oh, I'm full. I need to empty it. Inventory and stuff. So, I'm trying to think. So the second week was obviously not as fun as the first week, but it was still pretty fun. And that wrapped up. And then that weekend, I don't remember much. It was the least memorable weekend, except for there was this party that, it was a graduation party for some guy who, in the neighborhood who had, like, graduated college now. You know, the people who were seniors and I was freshmen. In high school and college, by the way, in both of those. They were seniors and I was freshmen. So my older brother's class, and we were invited. I went there. And these guys had actually gone to the elementary school, so I was kind of telling them, like, oh, yeah, I work at the elementary school we all went to, guys. But I don't think they really gave a shit, bro. they didn't give a shit, dude. And it was just pretty nostalgic back then. I was like, oh, yeah, these guys went to my elementary school where I work at now. And even back then, when I still had the job, I was still like, damn, I love my elementary school so much. I love the place. So, anyways, unfortunately that job came to an end. I'm gonna grab some dirt from down to fill in this fucking hole I've had for like months, years. But there was a dude at the party, and it was near my elementary school too. So it was a short walk. Who was friends with one of my good friends, and I went out with him earlier, right before our Florida trip. This redhead dude. Let's call him the redhead dude. And I'm like, hey, aren't we about to go to a party together soon? I'm like, oh yeah, it's actually only like 3 days. And he was actually friends with this one guy who was brothers with the dude at the graduation party, and that guy I think has schizophrenia. I probably should be saying this, but it was kind of like weird hanging out with this guy with schizophrenia. Apparently our family hung out with him recently, like early September, but I wasn't home because college. But yeah, and they have divorced parents, this family, and it's like awkward seeing them both nearby each other and they're not talking because they're divorced. Like, why would they be talking? Yeah. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to actually start building now. Plans to have, like, the bottom layers. Yeah, bottom layer just be, like, cobblestone, whatever. It was a very awkward thing. Very, very awkward thing. Could imagine for the kids, too. And, yeah, it was just a memorable thing. And then I visited my neighbors, like, directly after that who didn't go to the party. One of my good neighbors, he's awesome. I saw his parents today, but not him. He also worked a camp job. He's like 4 years older than me, though. So he was like a freshman in college when I was a freshman in high school. That's how old he was. It's a pretty sad story, though. I knew him. He was awesome. You don't really tell this to anybody, but he had a brother who was a year younger. And they'd hang out with my older brother a lot, but I liked him more. Because he was always more friendly. So, that's the truth. I'm not going to deny the truth. I like this guy more. He got, like, into an accident at college that, like, permanently disabled him. This is like he needs a wheelchair and stuff, you know? Like a spinal thing. And so, I love to hang out with that guy. Like, I remember my graduation party. He showed up to my graduation party for high school. This is a chill dude. Kind of makes me sad talking about it, but what a legend that dude is. And I remember I was hanging out with the dude for like an hour. My brother was there too. I was being pretty quiet though. I was just chilling. And then that was it for that day. And then week 3 began. And unfortunately, one of my favorite kids, I was talking about this girl. She said that she wouldn't be back. She didn't come back. She's from like Texas or something, so I still have like a drawing. I have like a drawing board that I have like drawings from like 2017, 2016 up. And they're perfectly preserved, like they look brand new. And then I have her drawing there too. That she just gave me a drawing one day. I was like, cool. And she gave me a thank you card too, which I need to look at that. I haven't looked at that in a bit. It was like, oh, thank you for being nice to me. I'm like, honestly, I'm shocked that a kid would think I'm like this, but we'll get more into this later in the story. But I don't think I do anything out of my way to like getting a little emotional here. Sorry, two kind of like emotionalist topics here. To like be a fun person, especially when I'm with kids. I'm just like me. Obviously, I'm me, but PG. Like I won't talk. Like when I'm with my IRL friends at college, bro. Well, I don't like to say IRL. When I'm with my college friends, I don't act pretty PG. But when I'm with kids, I act PG. Okay, so I don't know. I was just like heart touched by it, and then my boss made this quote. I probably talked about this on the other stream, but I forgot. But she was like, "Oh, you deserve it." I'm like, "Thank you so much." I don't know why. Get a little emotional thinking about that. Not gonna lie. But yeah, I miss that kiddo. Probably never gonna see that kiddo again. But she was a legend, and people talked about her for weeks after. Like even like a month after she was gone, I still talk to like a camper about this girl, and yeah, I'm gonna miss that girl forever. I'll tell you that. But the memories of this, she had this like cute little frog. I talked about it on Twitter because like it's this frog that like Amesy has, and apparently it's pretty popular. It's like a little green frog toy, and she made up a whole story. I think I probably talked about this earlier on the other stream, but made up this whole story about how the frog was like a cannibal. And oh, it got worse. I didn't mention it then to save time, but like she would talk about like how the frog would like burn down her house. And even threaten her life if she tried to like get rid of it. Because I remember telling her, like, you gotta get rid of that frog, bro. If it's really a cannibalistic frog, it's a massive evil frog, you know what I mean? She's like, oh, I can't get rid of it. What on? She's like Hispanic too, this girl, I think. Yeah, she had a little brother whose tooth came out one time. So yeah, I'll miss that kid forever. So yeah, week 3, that girl was gone. This one girl who went to this camp I went to, like many years ago, and never stopped talking about it because it's like a sleepaway camp. I think she went like the first week. And she wasn't there for the first week, that's why. She was still there, and she talked to me for a bit, I remember, a lot. And I started saying to her, like, girl, look, you gotta stop talking about it. You're obsessed with this camp, girl. Fun kid. I think that following Thursday was her last day, and she was gone. But however, her story's not over. I'll continue talking. I have a lot of stories to tell. But yeah, I remember talking to all these kids on the playground. Third week, well, there was an escape room that week. I don't remember what day though, but it might have been like the Wednesday or Tuesday. If I was to guess, it was probably the Wednesday. Well, actually, it had to be the Wednesday or Tuesday. I have no idea. But yeah, they brought an escape room. So some guy like drove his like truck. It was like an escape room truck here, and the reason why was because one of the nearby camps had to come to our camp because it was a voting day. So, okay, it probably was a Tuesday in that case. I'm pretty sure voting days are Tuesdays, at least in Illinois. So, or in the U.S. I mean, yeah, it probably was a Tuesday then. That's a fun way to find out it was a Tuesday. And so a bunch of kids had like shown up, and it was like the camp size doubled, and they had their own counselors. I think one of them, I recognized one of the counselors as if I think he was one of my counselors many years ago, but he had the same name, same look, and possibly similar voice. But you know, it had been like 2015 when I had this guy, so I have no idea it was actually him, and I never talked to him. So, but although apparently the other counselors I worked with said they hated that guy, I'm like, oh, I can't relate. I liked him when I had him, but if it is the same guy, his name was like Anthony. And that was the only clue, so it probably was that guy, same guy. But the only reason why I thought I wasn't, because he worked at some camp in like the south side of my town when I was a camper, and it was for like middle schoolers were allowed to do it. This one was like a drama camp that was like young kids and a different location, but I have no idea. So, is anyone in chat? No. That's okay. That's okay for me. Oh, yeah, and Minecraft Live was today. I could probably talk about that after if I have time, but I probably won't. So, yeah, those kids kind of stayed to themselves and their counselors. Some of them I recognized from like training and stuff. So, yeah, there was an escape room, and so a bunch of different groups, including that other camp, were gonna go in, but our camp got to do it too. And so we had like we interviewed all of our kids, like, okay, who wants to do? There's this other thing they did, which is like a water balloon fight. Apparently, obviously I didn't get to see it. They're like, okay, so who wants to do the water balloon fight, and who wants to do the escape room? And everyone's like, okay, your kid's the older group. They definitely want to do the escape room. And then there's like this younger group. They're, okay, that's the younger group, the youngest group. The green group is the youngest group. They're like, okay, they're gonna want to do the escape, or they're gonna want to do the water balloon fight. And so like, but you have to ask the kids anyways, because we support free choice, free will. We don't force kids to do games like that. We only ask them which ones they prefer. If they'd rather do escape room or water balloon fight. I was very shocked by the results, because this one girl who is like super quiet and likes to read books and is like one of the oldest girls we had was like, I'll do the water balloon fight. I was shocked. I was like, okay, this girl is if anyone asked me, I'd say she 100% would want to do the escape room, and 0% want to do a water balloon fight. But she was like, nah, that sounds cool. So that was very shocking to me that this one girl, who's definitely a personality, did not insinuate that she'd want to do the water balloon fight. Did the water balloon fight, and it was the opposite. Like, I had some kids who were like kind of immature. They're like, oh, we'll do the escape room. But despite these immature kids, did not actually contribute to the escape room. So the escape room was chaos, dude, but fun chaos. It was fun chaos, and obviously I was in there with them. I was the only adult who was allowed in because we had a full group. We had some people from the little kids group that wanted to like do it as well, got to come in, and it was like this it was just like this superhero themed escape room sort of, and actually, one of the autistic kids from my group, or the only one who was in my group, or ADHD, whatever, I don't want to diagnose him, you know what I mean, came in with me, and he was actually super scared. Like, he pulled my hand and stuff. It was a dark room that looked kind of scary, but it wasn't that bad. It was a truck. Come on, dude. Like, the inside of a truck wasn't that scary at all. But I remember before, or when I entered it, there's like this dude running it or whatever. He's a nice guy. I was telling him, oh yeah, this kid is ADHD, just a fair warning. And the guy's like, oh, that's not a problem. And kind of made me feel awkward for mentioning it. I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have mentioned this, because now this guy probably thinks I'm like dumbing him down by saying, oh yeah, this kid is ADHD. But I think I was right to mention it, because then the kid, like, at one point, like, was like jumping on the, just jumping up and down. And the dude was like, yo, stop, man, stop. Because it was shaking the truck. Even if a little kid jumps, it would shook the whole truck. And I was like, "Oh, I told you so, bro. I warned you. Can't say I didn't warn you, buddy." uh, but yeah, it was kind of confusing. I've never done an escape room. It's been on my list for like a long time, so doing it was so much fun. And we almost didn't escape. It was a 15-minute escape room. Do you want to know how many seconds we had left when we escaped? 30? I think it was 13, or it might have even been 3 seconds. It was something 3. I think it was 13 or 3 seconds. Which, for 15 minutes, that's insane. We were so happy. Because at the end, I kind of helped them. There was one puzzle that I couldn't figure out that the kids figured out. Because I didn't try to figure out, though, but usually like I would figure out in my head and like, oh, let them do it. There was one where I couldn't figure out in my head. And they figured it out. It was like this telephone thing. It was so much fun, though, escape room. Like, strongly recommend that, by the way. Try it out, y'all. It is fun. So I'm hearing my family make noises because we're about to go somewhere, so I might have to continue this tomorrow, actually. There's a good chance this story will continue into another stream, but it'll be tomorrow. It won't be another 3 weeks, I promise. Or maybe even later tonight. Anyways, I want to get wood now, so let's chop some trees. Chop, chop. I'll chop down trees around. Like, I don't really care about the trees out here, so. Oh, I forgot I have wood on my chest. Never mind. But, anyways, let me continue now. I decided I won't really do a design for this house. I'll just build it, make it look ugly. I just want to get it done or at least start it, you know what I mean? Sorry, I had to clear my throat. But, yeah, it was... Most kids, some kids didn't contribute, like some of my other kids didn't contribute, and some of them were working hard. And we had like the 6-year-olds, the 7-year-olds from the other group who were like, we're doing okay, they were vibing. But it ended up being a really fun experience doing an escape room. And escaping with like literally 13 to 3 seconds left, 3 to 13 seconds left. It was insane, like we were all rushing. There was one where we had to all hold hands and touch something. Obviously, like, the person running the escape room was, like, manually doing it. It's not like they had, like, a mechanic that could tell when everyone was holding hands. It was like a Tesla gate or something we had to touch. And I was like, come on, guys! And we were all grabbing hands, and then, boom. We won. It was, like, to stop supervillains, pretty much, from, like, stopping. Someone could probably figure out what this is and dox me, so I'm trying to be careful with what I say. But it was so much fun. And then we were the first ones to do it. And I left, and I was, like, telling the other camps, because like there'd be other groups going into, like each group would go in. Me was like the red and green group, and then the blue group would go in, the purple group would go in, and then like there'd be like the other camps groups or whatever. Maybe they do one, I don't know if they did. And there might have been a fourth and final group, because I know our team got to do it the last one as well, and I'll get into that in a second. But I was like telling them, like, y'all ain't gonna be able to beat this, bro. Like, we hardly beat it. How are y'all gonna beat this? And I was right. Most other groups didn't actually escape, except for one. So there was like a last group at the end of the day where they're like, alright, look, y'all, we have a little more time with it. Some other people can come in. And so guess what? The fucking camp director and then one of the drama teachers who was telling me like earlier at like lunch, after I had done it before he did it, he was like, yo, I want to try that, low-key. They went in, but apparently they helped the kids, so they also escaped, and they escaped with a better time than us. I was like, yeah, no, I didn't help them, man. I let the kids do it themselves, bro. But, yeah, it ended up being a really fun thing, a really fun experience. So, that was a very fun day indeed. Very good bonding time with my kids, but they had like I think the limit was 12 people in there, including an adult, so I was the only adult that went in with my group. It was very fun. Escape room. And then that week was my one of my good friends' birthday parties. Well, was it his birthday? It might have been like a day after his birthday. Because I think he had to organize it. It took him forever to organize it. That's why he created like so many group chats. And this redhead dude, who I'd hung out with like back in May and seen earlier in the month, was there. And I remember he made the joke about like, bro, why is there so many group chats for this hangout? And I'm kind of liking the cobblestone. I wanted the cobblestone on the bottom layer, and I said, oh, it can go up as the house goes up. But now it kind of looks ugly. But I might just keep it. Anyways, let me continue. So it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday. Actually, I think it was the same day. It might have been the same day. I don't know. But it was a day I'd work, and I had work the next day. It was a night. He picked me up with his friends, and then apparently it was the best day of his life. But to me, I felt bad because I was telling him, like, this felt like a normal college hangout night. Like, nights I had at college the previous semester and nights I've had at college this semester. I felt like that. And so he was like, oh, bro, I need to hit up college then. But it was me, his redhead friend's girlfriend, not to be racially profiling anything, but this black friend of his. Very chill dude, very quiet. Then this, like, not to be racially profiling again, but this, some Southeast Asian girl who went to my high school. Oh, the black dude also went to my high school, and the fucking redhead went to my high school, but his girlfriend didn't. Was there too. This Southeast Asian girl who kind of I'd seen before and like minorly talked to, but never actually talked to before. And we went out to get food first. Then we went. This guy's redhead friend was kind of a menace. He got us to go to like this adult woman's store where they said, "Oh, you guys 18?" And we're like, "Oh, yeah, we're 18. Don't worry." And they let us in. They didn't even check our IDs or anything. And like it had like stripper shoes and dildos, and we were just laughing about it so much. It was so funny. And then we went up to like Culver's to get ice cream, and then we went to this park. Now, there's this park kind of far from my house, but you'd pass it. We passed it a lot with my family. Had like a net you climb up and stuff, and I'd pass it with my family like at least 20 times before, and I always be like, "Oh, it's a cool park. I want to go there one day." It's by a school, and we got to go there. And it was so much fun. We were all running around on the swings. We were all adults, by the way. I hope you know. The oldest one of us being probably like 20, 21 or whatever. We were just having a good time. We climbed up this like net, and there were kids there, and it actually, for once, I wasn't the one talking to these kids mostly. It was this dude, the redhead, and his girlfriend were talking to these kids, and I eventually joined in the conversation, and they're talking like, "Oh, you guys know what Huggy Wuggy is?" I'm like, "Dude, I know what Huggy Wuggy is." I'm like, "Why do kids keep talking about this guy?" Because I had a girl at my camp who was like 7 years old, literally, who would talk about Huggy Wuggy. I'm like, "Girl, you would like have a mental breakdown if you saw Huggy Wuggy's jump scare." Chest of items. And I want to use this glow squid ink I have. Glow ink sack. There you go. And I also want to use a regular ink sack I found in here to make it. Actually, never mind. It's already black. Yeah, I was like, girl, if you actually saw it, you'd be like afraid. So, anyways, these little kids are talking about it with us, and they're so nice. It was these two girls and a boy, I think, or it might have been two boys and a girl. I think it was two girls and a boy. They're so nice. And they had like this dad, whatever, babysitter with them, and he was so cool. And then we left or whatever. And then as we were leaving, they drove up and came up to us like, "Hey, goodbye, goodbye." And I guess the kids wanted our number. So I was like, "Yeah, I'll give you our number, sure." And it was me who ended up giving them. I was the one who ended up doing it, even though I didn't talk to these kids that much. It was mostly redhead and this girl. And like, cool, cool, cool. And so I typed in my number to them, to the dad or whatever, and they drove off. I was like, these guys probably won't want to hit up any college, because we're like college students, all of us. That's one thing about us. We were all college students. I'm like, these guys probably won't hit our lines, but whatever. And the East Asian girl, whatever, or Southeast Asian, it's very important. Not East Asian, Southeast Asian. She looked like she was in like the Philippines or something. Not to be racist, just trying to describe her. Because like otherwise you guys have no way envisioning who I'm thinking about. She was like, "Oh yeah, I totally saw the dude like delete your number on the way out." And I was like, "Oh really?" And I was like, "I actually don't really take offense to that at all, because like, well, but I don't get it. Like I get it, I guess. Like you don't want your kids to hang out with like some college students. Like I get it. Like I didn't take offense to it at all. That's one thing." And I was like, plus, if anything, the two little couples should take offense to it, because they were the ones primarily interacting with these kids, and they did take offense to it, like, "Oh fuck, they leave their numbers." And then we drove everyone home. They had different the guy, the redhead and his girlfriend had a different car, so they drove home. We dropped off everyone at their houses before my friend dropped me off at my house, and he was just telling me like how it's the best night of his life ever. I was like, "Oh man, I feel bad for you, because that's like an average night at college, or an average Saturday night. Maybe once a month you have a night like that. Like, already at college, I've had nights like that where I hang out with girls and guys and have a great time. And I was thinking about, because like in early May, at me and my college friends and one girl and then one transgender person, technically a boy, I think so. One girl and then a bunch of boys, went to like a park and we hung out. It was during the day. We like played and there were kids there and stuff. But we didn't really talk to any kids though. But I was like, oh yeah, it's literally just like a repeat of that night. I literally texted my friends too, and I told them about this. My college friends when I got to college. I'm like, oh yeah, we had a good time. But yeah, that was the end of that day, and I don't really remember too much happening that week on Wednesday or whatever until Thursday was the day of a field trip. Now this camp was set to go on 2 field trips. I didn't get to go on the second one, but we'll get into that later. But it doesn't matter because this is the better one, and they've told me it's the better one. So we went to the Field Museum in Chicago. It was June 30th, the last day of June, June 30th, 2022, and we'll get more into that day later because some of you may recognize that day for something else, but we'll talk about that later. not die right. Trying to grab a more log. I've only got like 40 minutes left, by the way, of telling this story, so just to let you know. Just to let y'all know. I was like very excited for this day. It was going to be so much fun, and it ended up being so much fun. I don't know why I'm speaking like as if it wasn't. It was a very fun day. So we got to go take a bus, through Lakeshore Drive of Chicago, all the way to the Field Museum. Now, I hadn't been in the Field Museum since like 3rd grade, so I was very excited to return to it. And I was as a counselor. Now, obviously, there were a bunch of different groups. We had our 4 groups: purple, red, blue, green, and I'm obviously the red leader, so I was with the red group. And then the 2 people I get along with the least were the counselors. The 2 were the counselors who were set to be with me, which is like nice. Which was this woman I worked with who was to deal with like our kid with ADHD, and this other counselor who got along with her pretty well, but not really with me. And I'll tell you, it was quite an interesting time. I remember like literally seeing as like they announced our pair ups. I remember hearing like the MCC music as if it was like team in my head, like as if it was like they're announcing MCC teams, but instead they're just announcing which counselors go with which counselors, whatever. Do I want this to be 3 high or 4? I want it to be 4 high. Anyways, continuing. Ended up being a lot of fun. Thankfully, one of our counselors in our group, of course the other groups had like some of the chill counselors and some of the teachers, and even one of them had the camp director like, as part of their team, but thankfully the guy I was with made the map of for everyone else. Like he looked up and like printed maps out of this place for us, so like I just said, yo bro, you made the maps, you're gonna be leading us to all the exhibits and stuff, because we all had like orders of exhibits we were assigned to go to, whatever. And it ended up being a really fun time. There was like I had to bring a bag though. We all had to bring our bags, so we had to like carry all of our kids' lunches in a bag. I still have that bag sitting around here somewhere. I just remember being like, yes, I feel like an adult man now, I feel like a dad now, just carrying kids' lunches around in a bag, It was so much fun. Nothing went wrong or anything. Of course, there was this one. So we visited this Native American exhibit there, and I wasn't so serious about it, but the other counselor I was with was like, all right, if any of y'all misbehave or just show disrespect while we're in this room, I'm taking you to the lobby. Like, you're going to be sitting in the lobby with me for the rest of the day, or the rest of the trip. And so there's this one girl who kept like, this girl that I really talked to a lot, who's in my group. She like, I can't remember if she did. No, she definitely didn't do it, but I don't remember. I think she had done like a cartwheel. She does a lot of cartwheels. She had did a cartwheel, like at one of the other exhibits. And I was like, do not. And then we were in the Native American exhibit, and for some reason, all the kids were so well behaved in every other room except for the Native American exhibit. They were like all of a sudden so antsy, and I was like, and she's like, I'm gonna do a cartwheel. I'm like, girl, if you do a cartwheel, I'm not usually the type of counselor to behave this. I was like, you will go to the lobby with that other counselor, and you will stay there for the rest of the trip. Like, don't show no disrespect while we're in this room. Thankfully, we had no issues. Wink, wink, wink. Nudge, nudge. But I always thought that was a super funny moment. She almost went, bro. She almost did a cartwheel, bro. And I was enough to be mean on this girl. But she didn't. That's all that matters. Anyways, so it ended up being a very fun trip. I would love to do it again. I hope they do it again next year if I'm working there. And we'd sometimes interact with other groups. Like we had lunch with all of our groups. Like met up and had lunch and stuff. Like right in the front stairs of the museum, actually. So if any of you have been to the Field Museum in Chicago, it's quite a place to visit. We got past like Millennium Park where they were doing like construction, I think at the time. Yeah, I might be mixing up for a different time when I passed Millennium Park, but I'm pretty sure they were doing construction around Millennium Park at the time. And that was that field trip. And the next day was Friday, which we were supposed to go to the beach, but we couldn't, so we just like watched Night of the Museum, or Night at the Museum. And it was that counselor I didn't like last day. It was his last day. And I remember the same girl who wanted to do the cartwheel, who I've talked about a bit earlier. She's actually related to someone I know, but I'll get into that later. Yeah, I won't have time to finish the story, but whatever. She was like, "Oh, you gotta hug him, you know." And so I was like, "I don't want to hug this guy, but you know, I'll do it for the kids." And so I gave a hug to that dude and said bye-bye and never saw that guy again. He was 23 years old, but he was really immature for a 23-year-old. That's all I can say about that guy. I kind of miss him, though. And apparently a lot of other people missed him. A lot of other counselors, because it was only week 3. We still had 5 weeks left, you know? So that guy, he would actually lurk in the group chat and send some funny messages, which our boss would find funny. Just like spy on like our tidings. Like one time I had a problem with another dad. I was telling that like a dad was really angry to my boss in the chat, and he was like, "Yo, I could fight. I could throw hands right now if you want." And I was like, "Yeah, you don't work for us anymore, bro. Go ahead." So, anyways, it was a Friday. It wasn't the last day of the session because it was 4-week sessions, but it was the last day for a lot of kids, including this one girl I had who was like super nice, and her dad was like high ranked in our city. So, I said my goodbye to her. There were other kids too, who had their last day as week 3. They signed up for 4 weeks. Like, they obviously had to pay the same amount, but they just didn't stay for 4 weeks. I don't know what else to say. And it was kind of sad saying goodbye to them because they were legends, some of these kids. Like, there's this one boy-girl twin duo. But they weren't twins, sorry. They were just siblings. Their dad was a legend, though. He'd always talk to us. I remember at least he talked to us after, like, the first day of, like, the first week of work was over. He was like, "So, guys, how was the first week?" Like, he walked in our office because he was, like, inside the building for whatever reason. We're like, "Oh, yeah, man, it was fun." They had a W dad. And plus, they were actually the first kids to ever show up when, like, the first day of the camp. Like, they were the kids who arrived first. And so we were all like, "Hi!" I remember the first day of camp felt so surreal because you're, like, meeting the kids and you're, like, kind of like, "Oh, this is what it's like." Kind of like the first day of, like, high school or first day of middle school. Like, when you meet everyone, you're like, "Oh, I've been imagining this in my head for a while, but now I get to see what it actually looks like." So, yeah, it's fun to add that in detail. And I remember they had even told me one day, like, "Oh, we're going to Six Flags." And they went to Six Flags, which, again, will be relevant for later in the story. So that was the end of week 3. I had this one girl who could speak Korean. She was so nice. And there was actually this other girl who was part of the 1-week group for the 3rd week who also spoke Korean. And so they bonded and they tried to teach me Korean and it failed badly. I remember she was pretty sad to see some people go, including the counselor. Like, she had tears and I was like, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay." And so then week 4 began, but here's the thing. Oh, I'm also stupid. So, June 30th, back to the day before, the Thursday, was... Right after that, I went to a Cubs game, so I then went back to Chicago a couple hours later. It was North Chicago. To see a Cubs game, and it felt like a different day, which is weird. It felt like it wasn't the same day I went to that field museum. And I took the train whenever I met my brother and some other people were at the game. I even remember, like, when we were leaving, we had, like, very front row seats. There's this, like, white family that seemed so pissed off, like, "Get down!" And, like, we were blocking their view. I'm like, I get it, y'all. No need to act like Karens, though. Like, they're like, "Sit down!" Or, "Go, go!" Because we were blocking them. It's like, F you assholes, seriously. Because there were other people too, like, were standing up in front of us earlier, and I was like, ugh, but I wasn't, like, pissed off at them. I mean, we were pretty front row. We were by, like, the net, so, like, yeah, I guess it makes sense, but you don't have to be such an asshole. Like, if you're gonna be an asshole like that, I'll take my time, honestly, just to piss you off more. But we left. But it was when Technoblade's video came out announcing his death, and I saw Technoblade had uploaded. I had notifications on. I was like, oh, what's this? I watched the video, and I saw, like, how, like, it showed his dad, and I was like, oh, I'll watch this later. I don't know what this is. It just said, see ya, nerds, or whatever. And I was so confused. I'm like, I wonder what this is about. But I wasn't sure. I was like, whatever. And then I went on Twitter, and I saw the reactions of people like, oh my god, is this real? No way this is real. Technoblade actually is dead. And then I got a little teary a bit. I was like, oh my god, Technoblade's actually gone? Like, this isn't a joke video? Yep, it was the night the Technoblade passed, or the announcement was. He passed like a week earlier or so, but it's a very sad day indeed. I was worried that my kids at camp would be sad about it, but none of them actually talked about it, or some of them probably knew about it, but because I had heard them mention like Tommy in it before in Minecraft stuff, but it was a very sad day, and yeah, I still very am affected by the passing of Technoblade, so it's kind of a touchy topic, but it was a good moment to get the community, the whole Minecraft community together, and it was nice seeing they had the crown thing for him, but yeah, I was sad about it, but you know, stuff like that happens. RIP Technoblade. And then July began, and we had the July 4th weekend. So, this is the halfway point of the summer, by the way, for me. However, it's probably not the halfway point of the story, so I'll keep going, although I'll have to finish the story later again, because there's no way I'm going to be able to finish it. My grandma came around, and I actually hung out with these people. They had a house right nearby one of the beaches in our town. And I remember we had passed by the house on our way back from the field trip we went on. And I was like, oh yeah, we have friends who live here. And so it was 3 days later. It was July 3rd. It was a Sunday. July 2nd, I did like nothing. It was a Saturday. And I was at my grandma. I was like, oh yeah, you got we passed your house. And now we're here. We passed your house earlier in the bus. And like, oh, you guys should have stopped by and said hello. But it was just by bus. It wasn't like anything actually. But they had like a really old-fashioned house. And I was like, yeah, there's no way any kids have lived here for like decades. And then later on in the day, July 3rd, I went to my usual July 3rd celebration. So every July 3rd, there's this really fun fireworks show by this park nearby or a little bit of distance from my house. Like a good 10-minute walk away from my house, maybe 8 minutes if you're fast. 7 minutes if you're fast. And I went to it, and I remember I did it last year. It was during Heart SMP Season 6's launch. Was the first day. It was a good time there. Unfortunately, we showed up a little too late because I was with my parents and grandparents and some other dude. But I remember walking around, and I saw one of my kiddos. It was this girl who I interact with a lot. She was in my group. And I think I saw one other kid, but they were in my group, so I didn't give a fuck. Well, I've seen like other kids from the camp, like beaches and stuff, but they weren't from my group, so I didn't really give a fuck. But this is the first time I seen a girl from my group, and I was like, "Oh, I want to say hi." And my mom was around. She's like, "No, you should do it later. Maybe if the kid was right next door to you, or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, okay." But then I came back with my grandma later and said hi to the kid, and the kid's like, "Oh." The kid's pretty quiet though. She's the one who like want to do a cartwheel and well, is related to someone I know, which I'll get into later. And it was just like kind of weird seeing a kid that I knew. And I was like, yo, what's up? But that was it. And I kept walking around. Usually we have friends we go with to this July 3rd thing, but they weren't available this year, which absolutely sucked. They've been friends with us since summer 2017, these guys. They'll be relevant in the story later on. Don't worry. And so, yeah, that was the end of that day. We saw fireworks, went home. And the next day was July 4th, which was a Monday. But it's a national holiday, so there was no camp that day. We would have a 4-day week for our camp. And July 4th, there was supposed to be a parade. But unfortunately, there was a very famous shooting nearby at Highland Park, which is very close to where I live. So they had to cancel our parade, and I was very pissed off. because it was the 1 year, like the past 5 years, that I actually decided that I would go to the parade. I was planning to go, and we couldn't go because there was a shooter. Fuck that shooter, by the way. That guy was a-hole. A-hole. No one in chat. R.I.P. I guess that's a bad time to stream. Saturday at 6 p.m. Well, anyways, what should the floor be? I want it to be like fancy floor. I don't want it to be just cobblestone. Might do something different. Let's see. We'll see. But we did other stuff. Later on in the day, we went up to this like town. It's weird. This was halfway through the summer, but it really felt like it was near the later end of it. We went to this town with these people who, my family has a lot of people who I'll meet that like apparently my family's been known for like many years, but I'll be like, I didn't even know who you were until today. This like family, they had like a daughter who was super quiet and would like barely talk to us, like 15 or 16 or something. And they had like a couple other people there, including a dude who went to my university. He was a frat boy though. This kind of like fat sports guy. No insult to him though. And I talked to him a bit because apparently he had the similar job with me. He was also a camp counselor. I met so many people this summer who were camp counselors. Yeah, I was talking about one of my neighbors who was a camp counselor too earlier. The one who unfortunately had an incident and got disabled because of it. But he was a super chill dude. He was a frat boy though. But apparently my brother ran into him at college actually, because he goes to the same college as me. Talked to him and his dad. Played the beanbag game, which I'd played earlier in May when I was in Florida. Cornhole. Didn't do that well, unfortunately. But played cornhole one other time this summer, which I might remember to mention. If I don't, then I don't. But, yeah, I guess I can make the floor... I want to make the floor something special, though. I kind of haven't decided yet. I want to just continue working on the plan for the house right now. Let's work on the inside plan for now. There'll be a stairway up here. Anyways, continuing once more. It was a good party. I remember we even went on a walk around this town. It's like a little bit west of where I live. And I remember driving home and there were like illegal fireworks being launched because, well, it's 4th of July, bro. Of course people fucking launch fireworks, bro. What do you expect? It's like the most popular thing. But apparently all the illegal fireworks were like... People already hate illegal fireworks, but some activists were pissed off because of the shooting that happened, that people were still like, I don't know, they thought like, oh, it would be a good thing not to do fireworks because, you know, there was a shooting earlier today, be respectful, which I disagree with, but you can have your opinions. And it was a fun time. And I kind of missed those days, you know. I remember, oh yeah, there was this commercial that I kept hearing, and it would play this song. I think it goes like, do you like pina coladas? Da-da-da in the rain. I think it was that one. I remember I recognized it, and I was telling like the adults, I'm like, oh, I know this song. And like, damn, I didn't know the new generation knew about this song. And that's important for something that will be mentioned only 4 days later. Anyways, yeah, that ended, and then the Tuesday began. And this was one of the more fun days of work this Tuesday. It was Tuesday, July 5th. I showed up to work. It seemed like a normal day. I remember I was talking to a bunch of kids on the playground. And then, actually, no, it was before that. I was at sign up. We were signing in the kids' sign in. And then my boss comes to me like, hey, so you know, we need a counselor to go to a different camp because one of the counselors there is sick. And it's like, oh, but I'm not the floater. But, oh yeah, the floater did just leave. His last day was yesterday. I'm like, wait, wasn't there another floater? She just didn't show up to work that day for some reason, and we have no idea why, and I guess they couldn't tell us why, because, you know, if someone has COVID, you can't tell them why. Although our boss would, like, give us clues, like, oh, this person's not vaccinated, and we need to vaccinate people this week because of a breakout, and she couldn't show up. Oh, yeah, I forgot. There was this whole story arc. I think it was 3rd week or 4th week. Or, it might have been 4th week. Where this one counselor couldn't just show up because, she wasn't vaccinated for, like, 3 days. She couldn't show up for 3 days. And it was insinuated she wasn't vaccinated, but I don't give a fuck, dude. It's your choice, bro. But I guess other people in this camp probably would give a fuck, so. And we had some kids get COVID and have COVID outbreaks, which pissed us off. And there was actually one this day, but because I got to switch camps, I actually didn't have to wear a mask, so I was grateful about this. And so I was like talking to my kids, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you gotta switch, you gotta go to a different camp today." So the boss's boss, like the main boss, was gonna show up and drive you. And I was like, "Ah, fuck, for real." And I felt a little disappointed. I'm like, "No," and they're like, "Oh, but the camp ends 2 hours early, so like, or earlier than this one. So you could come back and work here if you want, or you could just not." They said, like, or you could just not. You could just go home early. It's like, you know, like if I went home early, usually I get fucking fired, right? But in this situation, I could go home early and get away with it. But it's like, you can tell these, like, we don't want to pay you. That's why. And I was like, I'll make a decision later. And so I said goodbye to my kids, and I kid you not, this is the one day I forgot to bring my mask. It was the day I needed it, so like I borrowed like a mask from like our mask pile, which was like made for little kids. So yeah, we had resources, like we had like frozen bandanas and like sprays, because you know it gets hot out in the summer, bro. And we had masks, and I had to wear a kid's mask in front of my boss, and I was like, or my boss's boss, and I was like, so awkward. It makes you look bad, you know. But it ended up working out. I was at this new camp for a couple hours. However, I got to meet some new kids. This camp had a lot of older kids. Like, some of them were even, like, 13. Because it was connected to a different camp, which is, like, what's it called? An aquatic camp that is very popular, which I'll probably mention later. A very popular aquatic camp that even one of my good friends went to. And so, like, he would talk about it with me sometimes. When I asked him about it, of course. Because I would tell him the story of the summer job. I'd be like, oh, I went to that camp. It was so much fun. And it was at this fucking shed by the beach, right by the house I was at July 3rd. I was like, oh my god. Oh, I should talk to this dude. Those guys, you know? Because, like, they freaked out when I freaked out when I drove past them in a school bus. Imagine how I feel now that I'm working outside of their house. And the kids were a little weird. It was apparently their first days, because this camp had 3-week sessions, and it was the start of the 4th week, so I connected at first. Like, when I go to new camps at first, like, it's kind of hard to connect with the kids because, like, they don't know you, so, like, first they're super quiet, but then you connect with them after talking to them a bit, and I'm super good at that, so I connect with these kids pretty fast. Had them play Wax Museum, which was a game we played a lot at my camp, so brought traditions over to them. And some of them were a little weird. Like, one kid, like, was old, and, like, an older kid, he would, like, talk to me, and I had to get him, I had to walk, like, kind of far with him to go to a water fountain. And he started, like, pulling on my tag or whatever, my name tag, which I still have. It actually broke somehow, and it's expired like August, so it's probably like August 20th or something. Anyways, I think my role was my literal role, my name tag said was, oh, I'm Counselor 2, which makes no sense. Just named Counselor 2. It's kind of funny, honestly, though. Let me use the rest of the cobblestone to fix up this wall here, because I don't want villagers leaving and stuff, so. And although I've done so much of it already, there's still so much wall that I need to fix or build up. But yeah, then a couple hours later, we played some games with them. There's this game called Red Rover, which is very famous for you don't play it with kids. And the other person I was working with, who's like an arts teacher, who I remember from training, who you could tell, it was apparently her first time actually working at this location too, was like, oh, let's play it during like the lunch break. So I was on lunch, and she even took a smoke break, which I guess it's allowed, but like, I'm like, oh my god. She's like, can you cover for me when I smoke? It's like, jeez, this fucking smoker lol. And you don't play Red Rover. The kid got injured, a girl got injured, and we were like, ah, fuck. She was like, oh fuck, what do we do? and they didn't have ice packs there. They didn't have supplies there. So the kid just had to kind of deal with the pain, which that's horrible. And I don't think she mentioned that to her boss who came to pick us up later, but I remember she was like, "Oh, do you know how to get an ice pack?" I'm like, "Well, my usual location has it." She's like, "Oh, can you walk this girl to your usual location, which is my usual camp?" But she said the name of it. Like, can you walk her to da 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 and get her an ice pack? It's like, okay, isn't there only an hour left to camp? Like, that would take us, like, a good 30 minutes, you know that, right? Like, it's not a short walk. Maybe 20 minutes if we were fast. And wouldn't that, like, violate, like, wouldn't the parents need to sign, like, a permission slip for me to even, like, leave the camp premises with the kid? Like, no. Like, it was sort of, like, the biggest no. Like, it would have been fun, but no. 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 And so the kid just had to deal with the pain, which is sad. And then we had to transfer them to, because apparently this camp, like, was connected to this aquatics camp, as I said earlier. We had to transfer them to the aquatics camp, so, like, our boss's boss showed up, or well, at least my boss's boss. To her, it was just her boss. Showed up, and we walked to it. We played telephone, which was a really fun game on the way. Like, we took a break to sit down because we were early, and played the telephone game, like, where you whisper something in someone's ear, and they try to, like, repeat the exact same statement, but it ends up changing, after a while, because you have to repeat what you heard. And eventually the statement's different. When it goes to the end, and it's sometimes wildly different. Like, you're, oh my god, it's a completely different statement. How did you butcher it? Like, huh? And so we played that a couple times, and yeah. Never went back to that camp again. They drove me to my place, and they're like, fine, you can finish your 2 hours. And so I finished my 2 hours back at my normal place, and I thought of it, like, as an adventure. I'm like, this is kind of like Ninjago. I traveled to a different realm, and then went back to my normal realm. So that was a very fun camp day, I'll tell you that. And I wanted to go back because, you know, I love my kiddos. I didn't want to leave them. Didn't want to leave them. So, yeah, very fun. Super fun, if you will. You've been a naughty girl. You've been a mean girl or a bad girl. Naughty even for that. It was a fun day. Maybe super fun day. And then the rest of the week was pretty normal. Obviously, we have these costume contests every week. I think this is the only week I, as a counselor, participated. I brought a hat. And I remember, like, no other counselors ever participated, so my boss seemed super happy that I did it. I brought my dad's, like, my dad wears his hat on 4th of July. It's like an America hat. And I brought it, and I have a picture of one of my kids wearing it. He's so cute with it. Yeah, it's the girl, it's this girl who tried to do a cartwheel, and I ran into on July 3rd. She was the one who ended up wearing it. And then, you want to know what happened that week? We couldn't do the beach again, because guess what? The beach. It was raining again, so we had to watch a movie, watch Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and then that's when I found out, through just talking to her, that that kid, the girl who did the cartwheels, was related to someone who I go to college with. And I've known for many years. I had kindergarten with, because I was talking about, like, how, oh, this is my kindergarten class, and she was like, oh, my cousin had this as a kindergarten class too. I'm like, oh, how old is your cousin? She's like 19. I'm like, wait, I'm 19. Who's your cousin? And then I realized her last name matched the same last name of this dude that I, like, fought with a lot in kindergarten. Like, I punched him in the face one time. And I told her about that. I was like, yeah, I punched your cousin in the face here. It was literally at this exact building on the kindergarten floor, which is where we work. We work on the basement floor. Technically the first floor. The kindergarten floor. Like, I literally punched the kid right by the bathrooms. I still remember it to this day, back in, like, 2008, 2009. And that's, like, later on where, like, that's the same place where I'm, like, waiting for kids. This girl, his way younger cousin, to get out of the bathroom. Like, that's the exact same place. Yeah, sometimes kids would take really long in the bathroom. I had this one boy who would take so long in the bathroom. And my coworker, this girl, this woman or whatever, got really mad one time. She's like, oh, you have to tell his parents about it. So I told his dad about it, and the dad's like, you know, sometimes he just gets a little spaces out in the bathroom. Kind of awkward conversation. I didn't want to do it. My coworker seemed really pissed off one time, because sometimes I had to wait like 20 minutes for this one kid to get out of the bathroom. It was really awkward. Anyways, that was the end of that week. That was the halfway point. So, like, a lot of kids weren't coming back. This one kid who was in the blue group, who play a lot of Minecraft, and I used to chase around a lot on the place that we play tag. It was his last day, as well as this Korean girl. It was her last day too. She was really emotional about it. And there's this one girl who was so sassy, who was in my group, that it was also her last day. And I honestly was like, goodbye. I honestly won't miss you. I'll later run into her, but we'll get into that later. I'm halfway through the camp story now, technically, and I'm probably going to have to go soon, because I said it's going to be about an hour. So, yeah, we're over halfway through the summer story, though, so if you count all we did last stream, too, we're halfway through the story. Don't worry. We're kind of more on the depressing part of the story, which is kind of sad, but whatever. So, yeah, it was a very sad last day. I'm like, oh, I'm going to miss you guys. And then I got, like, this email that week. I remember we did tie-dye and stuff, too, I think. Oh, yeah, and they had us sign, like, a poster, right? No, it was the next week we did the poster, I think. Yeah, it was, for me, it was the 5th week we did the poster. I got an email from my boss's boss, like, yeah, I'm going to need you to work at a different camp next week, so yeah. And my boss was like, hey, I kind of need him for Monday and Friday. So, like, okay, cool. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're working at a different camp. So I was like, okay, great, so I'm going to be at 2 camps next week. Wild. And so, yeah, we got to say goodbye to some of our kids. It was kind of sad. And then our boss, like, sat us down and, like, had a serious talk. We were like, okay, so unfortunately, this next session, there's a lot less kids. Because I know that at least that 4th week, the purple group was tiny. It was because it was following July 4th, you know, people famous on vacation. And the next week, just the 5th week, we had a very big purple group. But it was like the other, like the people who signed up for like the whole 4-week camp was like pretty tiny. So like, yeah, we're gonna have to like reduce it. So you know that blue group, right? The blue group counselor was awesome, by the way. She was so good at her job. She had worked there for like 4 years before, so she was a veteran. They're like, oh yeah, we're getting rid of the blue group, and we're actually combining it with the red group. Obviously, there were new kids who arrived, like, to join the main groups who weren't, like, the main 4-week groups. Because it's a 4-week session, obviously, a new 4-week session starting. There were new kids who were arriving, and it was like, yeah, so I'm the new floater now. So I don't actually lead the red group anymore. The experienced counselor leads the red group, which kind of combined with the blue group just to form the same thing, the red group. And obviously the green group still existed, with many of the same kids, but some of them were gone. And then the what's it called? The purple group would have its it would change every week. And it was like kind of depressing because our boss was asking us like, why does everyone look so depressed? It's like, oh, it's kind of like a downlifting thing, you know? And there ends the story, I guess. We'll continue the story tomorrow, where I'll go into my start off with my Six Flags trip, or my Six Flags thing I did over the weekend, and then we'll get into the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th week of my job, as well as the stuff I did after that, like a little vacation I did after that, and then I'll finish up my summer story. So, yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I think what was it? Was it July 8th, the last day of that week? I quickly want to do this so I can add one more detail before I go. Yep, it was. So, after that day, I actually saw the Minions movie with one of my good friends. He's one of my good hometown friends. He's not the same one as the one who had the party, but he was the same one who I like slept over with back in early June when I was actually working on this series, and it was super fun. I remember we had trouble parking though. We had to steal a spot from someone, but I thought it was fair because we were looking for spots for like over 5 minutes. Anyways, I gotta go, guys. I'll continue the story tomorrow. I promise I'll finish it then. We made good progress today. In an hour, I told a lot. I got through my finished 2nd week, finished 3rd week, and finished 4th